I exist in the rhythm of a memory, a gentle, persistent sway between what was and what will never be again. My own voice is a low groan of wood, a complaint against the silence that has filled this room like a thick fog. Dust, the fine powder of forgotten days, settles upon my arms, a soft gray blanket over the polished dark wood that once gleamed. I am a creature of shadow, living in the corner where the moonlight only dares to trace the floorboards, never to touch me directly. The air is heavy with the scent of lavender, long faded, and the cold, clean smell of unshed tears. She is here. Her weight is a familiar sorrow, settling into my curve, as she has done every evening since the world stopped turning. Her hand rests on my arm, the skin cool, the grip absent-minded. We move, back and forth, a pendulum, marking time not in seconds, but in heartbeats that have forgotten their purpose. There is no sound but my own creaking, and the whisper of her breath, a shallow tide in an ocean of stillness. The rhythm is all that's left, a prayer without words, a lullaby without a melody. It is the only thing we have, this motion. It is the shape of the hole he left behind. We rock in the dark, and the house holds its breath around us, waiting for a song that will never come. The trigger is the light. A sliver of pale, winter moon cuts through a gap in the curtains, landing on the floor precisely where the edge of his cradle used to be. And just like that, the silence breaks, not with a sound, but with the flood of 1,000 sounds I thought were lost to the dust. I remember the warmth. The room was not a tomb then. It was a universe. The walls were the color of a pale sky, and the air smelled of milk and powder and the clean, sweet scent of a new life. My wood was new then too, the varnish still fragrant. My purpose was clear, my rhythm a sacred duty. She would sit, her body soft and full of a humming energy, and the weight she placed upon me was light, buoyant with hope. In her arms, a small warm bundle, a life so new it was barely a whisper, and she would sing. Her voice was the thread that stitched the world together, a low, gentle melody that promised safety, that promised dreams. Sleep now, little soldier. The moon is your shield. The stars are your army in a soft, quiet field. The words wrapped around the room, around the tiny, sleeping child, and around me. My creak was not a groan then, but a harmony, a steady bass line to her song. I rocked them both, mother and child, in a gentle embrace of wood and sound. I was the vessel of her love, the engine of his peace. The years turned. The cradle vanished, replaced by a small bed. The baby became a boy, all sharp knees and boundless energy. My purpose shifted. I was no longer a soother of infants, but a throne for a king of make-believe. He would climb onto me, a wooden sword in his hand, my arms the ramparts of his castle, my back the deck of his pirate ship. She would sit on the floor beside me, reading him stories of dragons and distant lands. He was still her little soldier, but now his battles were fought with imagination on the vast carpet sea. Sometimes, when he was tired, he would curl into her lap as she sat with me, his head resting against her chest, and the old rhythm would return, slower now, more thoughtful, a quiet conversation between my wood and her heart. Then he was a young man, too tall for my lap, too restless for quiet stories. He would lean against my side, his voice deeper, talking to her of a world beyond these walls. I caught fragments, echoes of their life. Signed up today, Mom. A pause, a sharp intake of her breath that I felt through the floorboards. It's what I have to do. His voice, so full of a certainty that felt both brave and terrifying. Her hand would grip my arm, her knuckles white. "Be safe," she would whisper, the words of fragile prayer. "I promise," he would answer, and the confidence in his voice was a shield she tried to believe in. He left. The room grew quiet, but it was a hopeful quiet, a waiting quiet. The rhythm we kept then was one of anticipation. Each rock forward was a wish for his return. The turning point was not a sound I had ever heard before. It was not the ring of the phone or the familiar chime of the doorbell. It was a knock, a formal, heavy knock that did not ask for entry, but announced its arrival. I felt the vibration travel up my legs. She froze, her hand mid-air. The silence that followed was absolute, a vacuum. Then the knock came again, harder this time. I could not see the door, but I saw the light change, the bright, unforgiving rectangle of daylight as the door opened, silhouetting two figures, uniforms, sharp creases, and polished brass that caught the sun like broken glass. I heard no words. I did not need to. I felt the world shatter through her. It was not a tremor, but a complete collapse. Her hand, which had been resting on me, fell away. I felt the air leave her lungs in a soundless gasp, as if she had been struck. The weight that had been a constant presence in my frame simply dissolved. She slid from me, not onto her feet, but onto her knees, a slow, silent crumpling to the floor. Later, much later, they brought it in, a triangle of dark fabric, folded with a terrible, geometric precision. They placed it on the mantelpiece, where it sat like a dark star, absorbing all the light in the room. It was the period at the end of a sentence I had never wanted to read. That night, when she finally returned to me, her weight was different. It was heavier than stone. It was the weight of everything that was gone. And when we began to rock, the rhythm was no longer a lullaby. It was a lament, a slow, grinding motion against the unbearable stillness of the world. There was no song. There was only the creak of my wood, the sound of a heart breaking over and over again, and the profound, unending silence of a promise he couldn't keep. I have learned the nature of grief. It is not an event, but a landscape. It is the geography of this room. I am a landmark within it. I have accepted my purpose now. I am not a vessel for comfort, but a monument to its absence. I am a pendulum, measuring the endless expanse of loss. My grain holds the memory of her warmth, my joints the echo of her sorrow. Humans believe they own objects, but in the end, it is the objects that hold the humans. We hold their stories, their joys, and their deepest pains long after their voices have faded. I am a rocking chair. I have seen a universe born and extinguished within these four walls. I have felt the lightness of a new mother's hope and the crushing weight of a gold star mother's despair. Humans measure their lives in years, in birthdays, and anniversaries. I measure it in rhythms, the joyful, quick rhythm of a lullaby, the slow, thoughtful rhythm of a bedtime story, and this final, empty rhythm, the rhythm of a ghost, the echo of a song. I still rock to the rhythm of the lullaby she never sang again.